One of the biggest questions you probably got when it comes to managing your money when you move abroad is to set up a local bank account, to keep using your home bank account, or to have some kind of international banking solution that helps you work across borders. And there's a time and a place for all these solutions, but it's important that you use them for the right reasons at the right time. Otherwise, it could end up giving you more headaches and costing you more versus had you chosen the correct one. So in this video, I'm going to talk you through when it makes sense to use a local bank account and when you need to use a bit more of an international banking solution. Let's get right into it. When it comes to local banking and a local solution, this is pretty much a guaranteed thing that you will need if you're spending any length of time or you intend to be a resident in that country or you have bills or salary, because it does just make life a lot easier for you. Particularly if you take the example of someone who's coming from the UK or the US to live in Europe, then if you move to Spain or to France or wherever, then there'll probably come a point when you do need a local bank account because it just makes sense and life becomes a bit easier. Now, something worth noting is that if you live in one EU country that's in the Eurozone and you're moving to another one, let's say moving from France to Spain, for example, it probably makes sense to have a Spanish bank account because it will make your life easier. But there is an important directive or law within the EU which says that IBAN discrimination, as it's called, between EU countries is not allowed. That's to say that if you were to try and join a gym in Spain, for example, and you gave your French bank account, your French IBAN, which starts with FR, as the bank account that you want the payment to be taken out of, legally, they couldn't refuse you because that would be IBAN discrimination, which is not allowed under this law, essentially. With that said, though, there are other advantages to having a local bank account, particularly when it comes to things like local admin. The Spanish tax authorities, for example, there is a list of banks that they will allow you to use for the payment of taxes. When it comes to like a direct debit or a payment being taken out of your bank account, there is a list of authorized banks. Now, I believe that list has been expanded a little bit over the years. So banks that maybe didn't necessarily make the list before now are on that list. Also, if you're thinking of staying longer term as a resident and you may be looking for things like a mortgage or credit, then having that pre-existing local banking set up, it gives you access to the loan products and mortgage products that bank may be offering. And particularly if you go into a local branch, then they may be willing to negotiate better rates with you because you've got an account with them. Of course, if you are going to take on debt in a foreign country, then do so responsibly. But having a local banking setup can give you perhaps better rates. But what happens when you need to travel outside the country, for example, or if you need to spend money in a different currency, or you need to move money overseas? Then that's when you start seeing some of the limitations of the traditional local banks, because they'll charge you commissions, they'll charge you extra fees. They may not give you the best exchange rate. It might take longer for those transfers to process. And this is the point where particularly, if you need to move money overseas and particularly convert between different currencies, this is where some kind of international banking solution comes in really handy. It's a solution that allows you to hold, send and receive money in different currencies, spend in different currencies as well, particularly when you're traveling. That can be really helpful if you have an international banking solution as well. By having a more international banking or payment solution, then it's typically going to get you, better exchange rates. You're not going to have any hidden fees or commissions, and you just generally have much more flexibility in terms of being able to move your money around through different currencies and to operate without administrative friction, essentially. So when I need to convert money, spend money abroad, or transfer money between different countries, my go-to solution is Wise, who are very kindly sponsoring today's video. You can hold over 40 different currencies on the platform, and you can send and receive money with local bank details in over 20 different currencies with Wise. Those of you that follow the channel will have seen some of the different countries I've been to in the world, and I can tell you that Wise covers a great deal of them. I've converted money and spent money through Wise in a number of different countries around the world. I've also on occasion moved larger amounts of money than I would usually with Wise, which normally can be quite a nerve-wracking experience if you're not familiar or you don't do that on a regular basis. But I can tell you that with Wise, the experience was very smooth and very secure. and my money arrived on time. I was able to track the process through the app and through the website, and they have a team of experts on hand and available to ensure that when you're making these larger transfers that they happen smoothly and securely. Particularly for those of you who may be looking to purchase property overseas or move large amounts of money as your startup cost in your new home overseas, then Wise can be a great solution for you to move money from one country to another safely and securely. And if you're moving large amounts of money, then there are automatic discounts applied with Wise when you're sending over £20,000 in a transfer. So if you think that Wise could be beneficial to you, then be sure to check out the link in the video description where you can get a first free transfer up to £1,000 with Wise. Thank you again, Wise, for sponsoring the video. And now let's get back to the real answer when it comes to what you should use when it's local and international banking solutions. Then the conclusion that we can draw is essentially that having both, essentially a hybrid setup, is probably the best way to go to ensure that all your needs are covered when you're relocating to a new country and when you're getting set up. As I mentioned earlier in the video, you really don't want to overpay when it comes to exchanging money or sending money overseas, and you don't want it to take forever either, which it sometimes can with local bank accounts. More importantly as well, you really don't want to use kind of your home bank and debit card or credit card or whatever overseas in the majority of cases. It might be good for a week or two or multiple weeks if you're on a shorter stay, but longer term, you should really consider setting up some kind of local banking to help you with your everyday stuff, because otherwise you could be losing out on commissions that you're paying for using your card overseas. You might be mistakenly paying in your home currency and not getting the best exchange rate. But at the same time, try not to overcomplicate things if you can by having multiple different bank accounts, and having numerous different transfer paths to send money, because having so many bank accounts that you just can't keep track of them. I'm guilty of this myself. It was when I was working on my net worth statement that I actually realized how many different bank accounts I had and how many of them I wasn't really using anymore, and that it was just pointless to have them all. So absolutely do try and get a good setup with the local bank account and with something that will help you with international transfers and payments. You might open accounts that have fees that you forget about. You might forget that you have money in certain accounts. You might even be required to report interest or the fact that you have that bank account as part of an annual tax declaration or declaration of assets you have outside of the country. And that could be problematic if you forget about a particular bank account that you have as well. But try not to get too carried away, because it can get quite messy in the long term. At the end of the day, you want something that makes managing your personal finances fairly straightforward and fairly cost effective as well. And it should suit the kind of lifestyle that you have. That's why typically some form of local banking solution combined with some kind of international payment or transfer service or banking solution is the right way forward for the majority of people. There you go, guys. I hope you found this video interesting and informative. Remember to check out the video link to get your fee-free transfer from Wise on transfers up to £1,000. Leave a comment and let me know what your experience has been like when you've moved abroad and you've been trying to get your personal finances aligned and set up accordingly. If you like this video and you want to see more content about living abroad and moving overseas, then be sure to check out these two videos here. Till next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.